Hello, it's Reviews Day Tuesday, and today I am going to talk about Black Mirror Season 4. Black Mirror is a black comedy anthology series by Charlie Brooker. This is the 4th season and the second on Netflix. Seasons 1 and 2 were on Channel 4. I reviewed Season 3 when it came onto Netflix, and I will put a link to that review in the description below and also up there if you would like to see it. As in that review, I am going to talk a little bit about each episode separately. It still feels like the easiest way of reviewing the show because the episodes aren't linked. The first episode of Season 4 is USS Callister. It stars Jesse Plemons as a programmer who uses the DNA of his co-workers to simulate versions of them in a game set on the USS Callister starship on which he is the captain. Kristen Milioti plays a new employee, a new programmer, who gets copied to the game. I really enjoyed this episode. It's one of the longer episodes of Black Mirror at an hour and 15 minutes, but I felt like it merited that because we had the story on the starship and we had the story in the real world to keep us interested. It has this spoof Star Trek element to it as well, which is unusual for Black Mirror and gives it sort of a lighter tone, which I liked. And I liked how your sympathy started with certain people and that was very quickly turned on its head. You know, the heroes and the villains are not necessarily who you might expect at the beginning, and I loved that element. It's also one of the few episodes of Black Mirror where I've wanted to stay with the story at the end. You know, even with episodes of Black Mirror that I've loved, I've been happy to watch them for an hour and then move on. But in this, I really loved the premise and the characters, and I would have very happily spent more time on USS Callister. Archangel was episode 2 and it was directed by Jodie Foster. It is centred on a family of a mother and daughter. After the daughter temporarily goes missing when she is younger, her mother decides to implant her with a chip called Archangel, which does several things, including tracking her to ensure she doesn't get lost again. It also allows her to see through the daughter's eyes, and there's an optional extra which is that she can blur out things that could be distressing, disturbing, scary to her daughter. I feel like this episode was an interesting idea and it was certainly well acted and directed, but it wasn't an episode that I particularly enjoyed, mainly because I was so incredibly against the Archangel chip from the beginning. I was very much with the daughter and against the mother. I didn't have many sympathies with the mother. Of course, other people will have entirely different relationships with the characters, but that was my problem with the episode. That's why I particularly never got on board with it. There was a part very early on in the episode, no spoilers, but it made clear just how dangerous pixelating scary things was, and I couldn't see why the mother didn't turn off that particular element of the Archangel functionality at that point. I feel like there were elements of Archangel that it would have been quite interesting to explore, but I feel like maybe those things weren't explored in depth enough. I don't know, it wasn't one of my favourite episodes of the series. Crocodile stars Andrea Riseborough as Mia, a woman who 15 years previously helped her then boyfriend to cover up a hit and run. Her past comes back to haunt her, as it so often does, and she goes to increasing lengths to keep it buried. And we also have Kiran Sonia Sawar's character, who is an investigator for an insurance company. She uses technology called a recaller to help people remember events that she is investigating, and their lives intertwine when Mia sees an event that she is investigating. This is a pretty bleak episode. I love Sawar's character so much. I thought she was fantastic and I really enjoyed the ending. Overall, it's an episode I don't particularly have strong feelings about, to be honest. I didn't love it, I didn't hate it, just a general standard good Black Mirror episode, I guess. Hang the DJ is episode 4, and it follows Amy and Frank, played by Georgina Campbell and Joe Cole, respectively. They and everyone else around them have a digital companion called Coach, which pairs people off in romantic relationships for different periods of time, from a few hours to a few years, in order to eventually match people to their perfect partner. That is the end goal. I really liked this episode. It was one of my favourites of the series. It was one of the most enjoyable and fun to watch. It wasn't too dark, and the premise and the performances were great. It had a couple of nice twists. It felt very Black Mirror-y. I'd recommend this episode as a good example of Black Mirror at its best. Metalhead starred Maxine Peake, and it was the penultimate episode of season 4. It's more or less a single-hander where we follow her across a post-apocalyptic world. She's trying to escape from a dog, which is a name for a little four-legged robot which is tracking her. It's a very different episode of Black Mirror. I'd say that USS Callister and this episode are the most unusual episodes of Black Mirror that I've seen. It's very simple. We pretty much just have this chase going on. There are so few characters, and it's entirely in black and white, so it just looks different as well. There's very little backstory. There are hints to what has come before, but it's just background to this chase. It's kind of irrelevant, and I like that. really interesting episode. I wouldn't put it as one of my favourites of the series, but I really valued having something new and different to see. And finally, Black Museum, the final episode of the series, and also another long one at 1 hour and 10 minutes. This story follows Letitia Wright's character, who is being shown round a museum by Douglas Hodges' character. The museum holds criminological artifacts, and it's a starting off point for 3 short stories. One about a doctor who gets an implant so that he can feel his patient's pain. One about a man who takes his wife's consciousness into his brain after she has an accident. And one about a convicted murderer who signs away the rights to his consciousness after his death. I thought this was a great end to the series, not least because there are a lot of references to previous episodes and previous series in it. It's fun, if that's the right word, to spot them. And I love how, no spoilers, but all 3 tales merge in the end. I enjoyed the ending a lot. And I have so much time for Letitia Wright. I think she's amazing. One of my favourites of the series, definitely. So those are my thoughts on each episode of Black Mirror Series 4. I think overall this was a really good series. After Series 3 I commented on how I felt like that series was more consistent than usual. Every episode of Series 3 I would have watched again. I would say that Series 4 was more back to normal for me in that I found it a little patchy. There were episodes that I won't watch again, but my favourites were USS Callister, Black Museum and Hang the DJ. I will give Black Mirror Series 4 4 out of 5. It's quite difficult to rate it because I have different feelings about each episode, but I'd say that overall it was about a 4 out of 5 series. So that's the end of the video. Let's move across to the end screen. I'd love to know your thoughts about Black Mirror Season 4 or about the show in general. What were your favourite episodes of this series? If you'd like to see my latest video or some more reviews, then you can do so below me here. And if you'd like to subscribe to my channel or visit my website, then you can do so beside me here. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you later on in the week.